push me to the bottom of the sea and I drown. Cause I can't swim, I need the light to see and I can't breathe. My lungs is filled with water, it's chaos and out of order. Human specimen that's running for the border. Where's my recorder? Tapestry of life is kinda confusing sorta. As time goes by, this life is getting shorter. They say we the same, but our fingerprints are different. Now they're creating spaceships and want life extension to exist in dimensions. I call out the names, but there's too many to...
Hey everybody, you're now listening to the Crypto Wonder from the Crypto Wonder podcast. I hope you find this episode in good health. And I'll thank you for, lending me your time. I think that's something that's shouldn't be taken for granted, but I appreciate you for taking your time out to listen. So let's get right into it. This is going to be another rendition of a jail story. I'm thinking about starting a series, or who knows. This is a jail story. I wasn't incarcerated. I just happened to have been an employee for the city. And I worked in the jails. I wasn't a CO, for those who don't know. I've never been a correction officer. And shout out to them. But I was working for the health department. And I was stationed on Rikers Island. And I worked with the population who were chronically ill, specifically who had illnesses such as HIV, specifically the HIV population on Rikers Island. And it was a male population that I was working with. So, there's so many things that I learned when I was there. First of all, and I gotta give this, and I gotta speak about this, like I gotta dissect certain things, right? Just bear with me. The appearance of some of these guys who were inmates, when you saw them, when you see them, this is why you got to be careful out here, right? When they say don't judge a book by its cover. The problem is we do judge the book by its cover. People just don't want to admit that. You would never know that some of these guys were HIV. In fact, you would never know. I remember when AIDS hit the world, hit the United States, hit New York. Oh man, it was a gruesome time. And people associated AIDS with the monster, and a certain appearance that came with that, where a person would have to look like deathly ill, emaciated, right? So, super skinny, right? Just thin, and you have like open sores, and it would be associated with a look. 30 plus years later, years later, everything is different now. You're talking about these guys that were incarcerated, right? These inmates, they were built, muscular, well definition, big, like you would never know on the surface unless they told you. what's what. You would never know. And there's a reason why I'm saying this. Because it was just hardcore. Like, as far as me, it was the knowledge base. How I acquired my knowledge was from a experiential perspective, hands on. This is not something I drew or I learned from a classroom, right? I had to see for myself. And I didn't know what to expect. And each day that I was there, I learned something new every time. So I meet my clients one at a time. And I talk to them, right? Set up medical appointments for them. And sometimes during these conversations, some of them would bring up how, they have children. And I would say to myself, wow, that's interesting. You have children. Okay. Are you, and some of them I would ask, if they were in in the lives of their children. And a few would say yes, and have wives or baby mothers. And I would ask them, because it was my job to ask them, well, do they know your status? Right? And the guys would say, yeah, they do. I would even go further and ask them, are you practicing safe? Are you being safe? And, a lot of times, first answer they would say was, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I'm safe. I'm being safe. But then you have to ask yourself, okay, if you're being safe, you have children though. How are you being safe? See, I learned in Riker's. Okay. Before I go with that thought, let me table that. So then, shortly after I would ask and continue to, engage in conversation with them, they would end up telling me in some cases, like their wives or their baby mothers were HIV negative. And they would give me pause, right? I would think, wow, these ladies must really love you guys. These ladies must really, really love them. In some cases, I would even talk to their paramours or their spouses and wives and baby mothers on the phone. And let me just say this too, because you could, a person could think, a rational, thinking human being could say, well, they could say whatever they want to me. They don't owe me the truth, right? They could lie to me. They could say whatever they want. And you're right. You're absolutely right. They could lie to me. They could tell me the truth. And what would it benefit them to lie, though? This is not a lady or a child's mother who I would meet. I wouldn't meet them. I don't know them. You want to lie, you could lie, sure, but I don't know what you're going to get out of it, because you're not hurting me. I'm just trying to help, promote. I just had to work in the capacity as a public health person for the health department, right? I'm an employee. The ladies would tell me, that they're negative. They're negative. I didn't, and see, I was so ignorant. I thought I knew so much about HIV before I started working for the health department, and specifically in the jails. I thought I knew so much. I knew nothing. And mind you, we're talking about something that I had already 20 years. I thought I knew 20 years enough of AIDS and HIV, and I knew that AIDS and HIV were two different things. I thought AIDS was a disease. And for 20 years, 20 plus years, I'm walking around ignorant. Ignorant. But these guys, they're still, putting their loved ones at risk. See, the guys now, they could tell me whatever they want to. But because of the nature and the capacity that I was working in, and I listen to people, right? And I'm listening to them talk. And, you telling me you have kids, but then you're telling me, adamantly telling me you're practicing safe sex. Come on, son. Like, come on, man. For real? You just had a newborn, but you're practicing safe sex? You just had a newborn. Is it because it's me and I represented the health department? Like, you're not lying to me. I mean, you could say what you want. You could say whatever you feel, but you're not doing anything to me. Like, if it's for them to save face, to make themselves feel better, at the same time, you place it not only yourself, but your loved one, your wife, your mother, your baby mother at risk by engaging in unsafe sexual practices. I mean, the ladies would tell me on the phone that they got tested. They get tested. I'm going to go a step further. What about the baby? One inmate told me he just had a baby. And I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking a bunch of, because of the hat that I wear, because of, pun intended, because of the role that I played. I'm like, oh, you just had a baby. Okay. How's the baby? Baby's okay? Okay, good. I mean, like, baby, natural, like, born, everything good? He's like, yeah. And then they would say, yeah. And he's negative. The baby's negative, or she's negative. Oh, okay. How's the wife? Wife is good. Okay. And then they would tell me the wife is negative too. And then I'll just be like, my goodness. You want to talk about playing with a loaded gun? You want to think about, I mean, for real. And then the wives would hold them down. You know how I know? Because they talk to me. They would call me. Like, I would be times where, in jail, the phone is a very valuable commodity, right? So in the office where I sat and worked with them, where they came into my office, before they would leave, in some cases, I'd offer them, use the phone. And of course, yeah, for free. Oh man, jackpot. So there would be times where, as they're talking to their loved ones or whomever, they would pass me the phone and I would speak to their partners, their wives and stuff. And then the wives would talk to me and tell me certain things, because I represented the health department. And they would tell me, yeah, they get tested and this and that. And sometimes you can hear the sincerity in their voice. And I would look at the guys and say, man, look, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You see how she sounds on the phone? You hear the baby crying, your child crying on the phone. Why are you in here? On top of that, why are you placing this woman at risk? You took a chance with this child because in some cases, children are born infected. I met them too in the jail. Young, early 20-year-olds who were born with it. Now I'm going to tell you another story about that population. A couple of accounts that I've heard and stories and things they shared with me. But I would look at these guys and say, listen, and then they would tell me, yeah, you know, I'm gonna do better. I know I messed up. And it's the same song and dance. It's the same song and dance. Because they would present Oscar-winning performances in the chair, right? Telling me, try to convince me that they're gonna turn a new leaf. Once they go back into town, they're going to turn a new leaf. They're not going to do stupid things to end up getting in trouble, etc. They're going to take care of their family, try to obtain a job because they don't want to live on the assistance anymore, public assistance, whatever, to turn their life around. A week later, they're back and I'm talking to them and it's the same old scenario. Some cases it would be a little more longer, a month later, but not that long. They were repeat offenders. And were younger than me, and I'm looking at them like with a certain level of empathy, like, because, come on, man, you're still dealing with human beings here. And I'm not talking about treacherous, guys that committed like serious crimes. I'm not talking about that. That's a different story, different population, different stories. I'm talking about the guys that just, they get petty offenses. What are you doing? You have a home. You're not alone. You have a home. You have a wife. You have a baby mother. You have a child. And you still choose to do what you do to land in jail over and over and over again. And you continue to possibly infect your partner over and over and over again. Now, again, it takes two, right? A person could say, no, wait, hold up here. You can't just blame the guy. And you know what? You're right. Because it's not 100% the guy's fault. Because there's another party. The woman could say, hey, listen, no. Or strap up. Put the hat on. Many times they don't. Because they've had children. They've had kids. Who you lying to? It's not a judgment. It's just an observation. Who you lying to? Thank goodness the kids will come out. In some of the cases, the kids come out fine. Other instances, the wives or the the spouses, the partners would be positive as well. And I did not know that two people who are positive should still continue to practice safe sex, or else they run the risk of reinfecting one another over and over and over again, even though they're both positive. I was ignorant. I didn't know this. I didn't know. And so I would look at some of these guys. You would never know. not only did they have wives and baby mothers, but they also had boyfriends. And I would say to myself, well, do your wives know? And they would say no. They would say no. And it at that point in my career, I was trained well to mask my true emotional responses, if you understand what I'm saying. Because a different part of me just would want to just jump in, choke the crap out of, like, what the hell is wrong with you? What the hell? Wasn't easy. But this is what happens in life. This is what's going on out here. This is what's going on out here. And I'm not talking about boyfriends only in the jail. I'm talking about boyfriends on the street. They have a home, have a child, have a wife, have a girlfriend, and also have boyfriends. And let's be for real here. I'm not placing any judgment. I'm just observing based on what's being said, what was said to me. How do we know the wives are not doing the same thing to the partner? Like, why are y'all together doing this? How do we know the wives don't know what the guy got going on? Because people often act as if they're in control and they know and no one else knows nothing. That they could do what they want, especially these men out here, right? Well, this is I'm talking about cases where you have men who are infected with HIV, who are chronic repeat offenders. They return to jail more than they take showers in the street, or, more than they change their clothes. They return to jail so much, it's like that's their primary residence. It's not a joke. And you have a family in the community. They're not alone. They have a family in the community, and they continue to practice unsafe sex, placing themselves and others at risk. Not only their family, but others in the community who may or may not know the situation. See, they could tell me whatever they want. But you mean to tell me, why would you be upstanding and truthful with me, like wholeheartedly, like honest, and telling me you taking care of yourself and practicing safe sex, etc., etc.? Number one, that's a dub, like the kids say. That's not factual if you're having children out here. And at the same time, you already disclosed that you're also engaging in unsafe sex with men to men, with other men. So you just, come on, man. Every time you're protecting yourself, I doubt it. We already know one time you didn't. So what makes me think you didn't do it again? You know what I mean? The lack of responsibility. And it's, I don't know. I'm like, my goodness, man, you have a child, bro. You have a child. Excuse me with the bro thing, but because some of the times, like, my job was like, I saw so many of them on a daily basis. I didn't have enough time to really sit down with them for lengthy periods of time to really. But in some cases, when I did, and let's say the jail was on lockdown and there was no movement and they couldn't leave the office, so I would just, okay, so Might spend another 10, 15 minutes extra, and I would tell them, listen, like you have to think. You have to think about what you're doing and the consequences of your actions, man. You have to think. What is what is your goal? You have a child crying on the phone. Your child. And I gotta say, I used to see so many mothers because I used to take the train, not the bus. This specific bus. If you didn't have a car, you had to take the specific bus. I think it was the Q100 bus. That's what it was. The Q100 bus over the Rikers Island Bridge. Gloom and doom, and that water smelled like shit. Excuse my language. There's no other way to say it. It's real because there was a sewage plant right there. So it was all a trifecta of caca. But I digress. The mothers with their children would be on the bus crying, packed buses, crying, visiting some of these guys because they would tell me. I didn't know who, the mothers, like who they were seeing specifically or whatever, but the guys would tell me, yeah, I just came from a visit. My baby mom came and brought a baby and blah blah blah. You have your family pillaging through all this, riding the bid with you. Because make no mistake, while these guys are incarcerated, they have their families out here that's doing time with them too, except the only difference is they're not incarcerated. And they lose sight of some of these things. They lose sight of the fact that some people have nothing. Some people don't even have that. Some people don't even have that, so they don't even know what they have. They don't even know the value of what they have. They don't even know how fortunate they are to have people who could even come visit them and bring their children, hauling, carriages and carts and, getting sniffed by dogs and all kinds of wild stuff. Like, come on, man. Being searched, putting them through all types of dreadful things to come see you. Look, it's an observation, not a judgment. But you have to think. You have to think. These are lives you're playing with here. Lives. I could go a little deeper too, but I'm not going to do it for this episode. But I could go a little deeper, but I'm not going to do it for this episode. There'll be more. But that's what's going on. That's the real deal. That's what's going on. It didn't stop. Since there I haven't worked there. I don't work there anymore. But that is the reality. And by appearance, you would never tell. You could never know. You would never know. Let me tell you. You would never know. Just by looking, no, you wouldn't know. Be careful, people. Everything, like they say, is not always what it seems. Take care.